All right, I'd like to welcome Jay Bernardo from the YouTube channel Cardboard East. And today we're going to be talking about games set in Asia. And I think it's really kind of neat. Your channel actually focuses on board games from Asia that are set in Asia, that kind of thing. So, how did you even pick that as a topic for your a theme for your channel?
Well, no, that's a really good question. I do get it quite a bit, Nathan. It's great to be here, by the way.
Yes, thank you.
I lived the expat life. I'm an American, but I lived the expat life, and I lived in Taiwan for about 18 years total. And while I was there, Taiwan was really good to me, and I wanted to give something back. And I knew a lot of the publishers, so I thought, I'm just going to review some of their games and talk about some of these great games I've played because they don't get as much coverage as some of the Western games because those publishers just have deeper pockets.
Mhm.
And I called it Cardboard East because I wanted something really approachable, but also because I played a lot of video games when I was a kid. In fact, I helped my neighbor who ran a video rental store, if you remember what those are from the 1900s. She also had video games. There was that moment where you could rent video games, and she would give me video games, and I would play them and write like this little paragraph next to the game. So I guess I assume other kids would read this paragraph and be like, "Oh, this kid likes it. Maybe I could play it." And so, um, and my one of my favorite publishers was called Data East. They make the game like Bad Dudes, where you have to fist punch ninjas to rescue the president.
I
So
remember
it's
that one, I think, actually.
yeah.
That's funny.
And so I thought their logo was really cool, and I thought, oh, Data East. Well, I'm cardboards. I'm board games, so I'll be Cardboard East. And they were DE, so I made my logo CE.
I love that because, again, anything that we can do to bring these titles more exposure and to get them out there, and because I mean, there'll be some great titles. I've watched a couple of your videos about sort of the best games of from Asia to 2024, 2025 so far, that kind of
Oh
thing.
yeah, yeah.
So I think it's great that these games get the exposure out there. It's needed.
Yeah, it's there's so many games coming out now, and it's really interesting to explore different cultures with different stories and just
Yeah.
different themes. And there are sometimes so novel that it's just such a breath of fresh air. And I think I mean, there's a lot of diversity now. But I've been playing the games for a lot. So I remember when Tom Vassell had this rant in one of his videos about that he's tired of tr games about trading in the Mediterranean. Like he's like, can we please come up with something else? Like this is just it's another game, and it's just like, oh wow, hoo-ha, I don't care. And I totally felt that rant. I understood it,
Yeah.
and part of that cardboard East is exploring all these new stories that get to be told from a different part of the world. And I
Yeah.
know we'll talk about this even more as we go through our lists.
Yeah. In the war game space, it's the Russian front 1941 to 1945. They've covered that one very, very well. And a
Oh
lot
yeah,
of yeah.
there's a lot of World War II like really focused on the European theater. I mean, you get
Yeah.
some African theater things and not much in the Pacific realm.
No,
Like
no.
it just does not get as much love.
Yeah. So we're going to remedy that right now. We've each
Yeah.
picked five games that are from Asia, based from Asia. I don't know. I kind of kept it like a loose definition for myself, but we haven't revealed our lists to each other, which is important. So this is going to be a total surprise. Number five.
Well, for me, I wasn't sure if we were going to do board games from Asian publishers or
Mhm.
games that about like board games in the Asian theater. So I thought it was going to be just Asian theater, so I went with that.
Sure.
So this is a little bit out of my wheelhouse, so I can't talk about these games as much. But one game that I do want to talk about, and we talked about this very briefly before, was that in World War II, the European theater is heavily romanticized. There's so many movies about it, so many TV shows, but the Pacific theater doesn't get mentioned as much. And it was a crucial part of the war, and it's really fascinating. A lot of things that really happened there that I don't think many people really understand. And so I want to talk about conquest and Conquest and Consequence. which
Okay.
is the reimplementation of Triumph and Tragedy,
Yes.
which many people have probably heard of.
Yeah.
So Triumph and Tragedy is a block war game, war block game. I'm forgetting block
Yeah,
war
block
game.
war
Yes,
game's fine.
and I love block war games because they have this fog of war that to it, where you know the value of your um, units and not necessarily your opponents. And it's seen a lot of innovation over the years. There's one that came out recently where I mean, typically it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Because they're four sides to a square. Some games have now made that to like 32, 28, where like it just jumps up. So you could just bump into a square and all of a sudden it's like 27. And you're like, oh, I'm in a lot of trouble. And so that has that excitement there.
Yeah.
Triumph Strategy is really unique because I mean, it can be played as two, but it's really a three-player block war game where it's the Soviet Union, uh, Nazi Germany, and the West, which is just like pockets of Europe, eventually the US and England. But Conquest and Consequence is about the Pacific theater, and you have the Soviet Union, the US, and Japan. And one of the things I love most about it is that I love about this game is that it's not just a war game. It's like it's a resource and engine building game because you're also building this war engine that you have throughout the course of the game, and it's a long game. It's like 4 to 6 hours. It's definitely what you would call a destination game. But I love how vast the Pacific Ocean feels. Like when you cross it, it takes a lot of time, and you really feel it. And I don't think that mini games really capture that. I love how even though it's a three-player game, it's so unique. It's like the Soviet Union isn't sending in troops into China, right? It's doing this whole subterfuge of like propaganda and converting people into communism, and it's this other thing that Japan has to deal with as they're mitigating China. And so you can see that Japan doesn't want the U.S. to enter the war quickly because they're still trying to deal with China, but they had to eventually deal with it as opposed to the game. And I really like that back and forth that Japan offers. I really like that how it's more than just I move my dudes, you move my dudes, and we hit back and forth. But that intricate play I find really fascinating.
That's interesting. I'm not intimidated by a 4 to 6 hour game. I think sometimes you get if you get players that are willing to like dive in and invest the time, and it can be some of the richest gaming experiences. I don't think, people just playing like a quick card game get the same, depth from that experience. And I think that that's something that those
Yeah.
longer games can do.
That's
So,
what I love about war games. It's that constant back and forth
mhm.
where there's tons of turns, tons of feedback for my actions, and then you could really pick apart towards the end of the game where you're reflecting on like Act 1 or Act 2 of the game where like, oh, this one battle, this one choice I made really impacted that second act of the game. And I just really love how you can break up that apart into all these little decisions along the way.
Yeah. All right. So this one, Sekigahara,
Oh,
is a block game.
it is.
In a way, they're more rectangular, but
Yeah,
but they
I've seen y'all's video on it. So
yes.
it's
Yeah. And it's I think an example of just pure elegance in design. It is uh, not only aesthetically streamlined and straightforward, but the gameplay as well is just very straightforward. But there's a lot going on with the bluffing and moving stacks around of units and having the battles even there's a turncoat card, so you think they're your
oh,
friends until they flip sides and join, which is reflective of the history.
oh yeah.
And
That's how he
it,
won. That's how Tokugawa won the Battle of Sekigahara, right?
yeah, exactly. So it's built into the mechanics, but it's in such an elegant, clean way. I actually like the designer Matthew Calkins also did another game that I really enjoy called Charioteer, which isn't
Hmm.
set in Asia, obviously, but is a fun simple but fun racing game, chariots racing down the track and so forth. But again, he's very good at these very clean, elegant designs. And after you play, you just sit back and you realize like the amount of mileage that he got out of such simple mechanics and the depth of strategy and gameplay. It's just a really impressive game. So that's my number five. All
That's an
right.
excellent pick. I absolutely love that game.
Yeah.
I'm going to take this time to apologize to everyone because I do look like I'm from the 90s internet here with my headphones, my microphone here. I just have the microphone here because it's better than having it on my shirt because it stretches the collar and then it's low on battery, so I'm charging it. I look very ridiculous,
You look very Max Headroom. I'll something like that.
it's
Yeah.
great. Uh, but moving on to my number four, which is actually pretty funny because both Conquest and Consequence and Sekigahara and this game all had the same problem, and that's stickers. Because I'm talking about Commands and Colors Samurai Battles.
Okay.
And I love block war games. Man, oh man, I really hate the stickers. Like it's just when you buy the game, you are knowingly taking that time to like this will be a season of Netflix just stickering away
Yep.
before I could sit down and enjoy it. But it's definitely worth it. And sometimes it's worth just waiting to buy a used copy because you don't have to sticker it.
Assuming they did a decent job.
Assuming, yes, that's a big assumption, right?
Yeah.
Sekigahara is great because you only sticker one half of your blocks. So
Yes.
it took half the time.
Yes.
But I really like the Commands and Colors series. I think that it's really, really approachable. I think if you're trying to introduce someone to what a war game is, then the Command and Colors series is a great place to start. And
Yeah.
it really captures that fog of war. Not in this case of hidden units, but in this case of like the cards in your hand that you don't always have opportunities or logistical lines to communicate with parts of the battle. And even though you have this bird's eye view, 10,000 feet away of everything that's happening, that isn't exactly what's happening in real life in the game. But Command and Color Samurai Battles came out later in the Command and Colors line. And I got to say that it's one of my favorite things about it is that it's 40 scenarios, which is just wild. Because I think like Memoir 44 had like what 10
Yeah,
or
but yeah,
something like
something
that.
like that. Yeah.
And the fact that this comes out with 40 right off the bat is more enough. I haven't played all 40. So it's the one interesting thing that it does in this game is it has an honor system. So when you're rolling your die, one of the results is like this honor token. Oh, I can get an honor token. At the end of your turn, you can get more tokens, or you could draw a dragon card. The dragon card is kind of similar to like the battle lore, where it's kind of these magic or these very powerful swingy cards. Like you can have like there's an ambush card that could just ambush someone else, so you could roll your dice first, and there's a ninja that could go into the discard pile, and you could retake that ambush card, and then your opponent is like, well, they're going to ambush me anytime I attack, and they're hesitant for the whole fight. And there are these little wrinkles in the game that you can explore. And I really love how it took Command and Color's ancients were the leaders and made the by if you have a leader in your formation that whole line can move together and how powerful that is. Also the history, I mean, there's a lot of war games in that happen in Asia are unfortunately going to be in this Sengoku period with like the Civil War, 150 Civil War of Japan, like even Sekigahara, right?
Yep.
Is and it's the but it's wild to think about that it's 150 years your country is at war with each other and that your father and your grandfather knew nothing but bloodshed and war
Yeah.
and you're constantly fighting each other. So it's and have samurai battles, pick out certain battles throughout the course of the game is really fascinating. And I'm really happy that, and they did this in Sekigahara as well. They have the arquebus, you have the guns, right? Where all of a sudden, somewhere in the Civil War, like these Western guns were brought in and completely revolutionized warfare and how it was done. because it was mostly just melee hand to hand, and then a few like bows and arrows here and there. But the guns truly changed it, and they highlight some of the battles in that history that really cover that. And I'm really really excited that they did that. And that's my number
Yeah.
four, samurai battles
Well,
from
for
Command Center.
for 40
Yeah.
scenarios, that's years and years of bloodshed, and that's all you know, right? Playing playing all those through and giving them a because you can't just play them once. You got to play them a few times to really
Yeah,
unveil the depths.
and what I love about it is that it's I think I really love the Undaunted series. I really love them. But I think I like North Africa a little bit more than Europe because how uneven some of the battles are.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that in Samurai Battles they did it as well because I like balance. But as one of the designers of Dune and Cosmic Encounter said, like balance is for wussies.
Yeah.
Like I think and sometimes I think I want to play like these scenarios where it's just against all odds, or
Yeah.
if the numbers are against you, and you want to see if can you do it? Can you get the right rolls? Can you get the right maneuvering? Can you pull it off?
Yeah. And you get bragging rights if you do, right? So,
Yeah,
and
it's
that's a
those you
story you
really
can
get
tell
those
for the
stand-up
rest of
moments
your
there.
time.
Yeah, and then if you lose, you're like, well, I was gonna lose anyway, but it's fine. And you get close and can be nail biting close sometimes, and it's really really fun.
That's awesome. All right. So my number four here. Well, actually, I'll do the fun one here. This is kind of the fun. This is not a war game, but I thought, I had a choice between a few different kind of similar games. I thought, oh, let's do something really wacky. And King of Tokyo. Why
Yeah.
not?
Not a
Now,
war game, but
it's not a
kaiju
war
is
game.
is all
Well, it is
fun.
a fight. It is a battle.
It is a fight. That is true. The sequel is, I guess, kind of a war game because you have tanks and like police fighting the monsters as well.
Yeah, well, and Duel, there's Tokyo King of Tokyo Duel because every game now has a dual version. That one has, again, a push-pull kind of mechanic, but King of Tokyo, you could call it a melee. Let's say it's a melee battle, and
Yeah.
it is a battle of sorts and a war game of sorts. But I think it's just a really fun and clever type of twist on essentially Yahtzee and I think it's a game that will not take 4 to 6 hours to play, but
Yeah.
it's a good intro game to the hobby, and I've always had a lot of fun with it, even if it's a lighter game. And it's something where there is a little bit of strategy and sort of picking your
Oh
dice and
yeah. Oh
mathing
yeah.
things out and looking at the cards that are available to buy and trying to. So there's a little bit of that, but it's also one where you can play and not take it too seriously, which is kind of fun. So I just thought, hey, for my pick, I probably should have made that number five really, but I'll just
You
I'll
put
just keep
King of
that to
Tokyo
seven.
higher than Sekigahara. Like
I
I'm
know.
just shocked. I'm really shocked.
I
I'm
know. It's
really
just the way
shocked
the
that there need to
boxes
be
were stacked.
comments here about these hot takes. No, I do love King of Tokyo. I used to be a teacher. I was a teacher for a lot of my time, living that expat life in Taiwan. I would play King of Tokyo with the students sometimes, and they absolutely loved it. They would pair up and they would play and they would fight and they would totally get into it with King Kong. And I remember one of my students would pound his chest. Absolutely hilarious. But yeah, that's a great pick for number four.
Yes. All right, you're number three.
My number three is, it's it's gonna be. I'm kind of stuck in the Sengoku period here. My number three is gonna be Joraku, which
Okay.
is a trick-taking game about the Sengoku period of
Yes.
Japan. And it's such a very classic feel. When you play a card down, as you do with the trick-taking game, the highest number wins, not necessarily the highest suit. And but you play that down, you have a choice of either um, putting that using that number to either for these little operation points, like do I send in some troops to area 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 because there's 6 areas on the map,
Hmm.
or do I use that 6 and break it up to move my units? So do I move them from 6 to 5 or 5 to 4 or 3 to 2, or do I push one of your units out? Do I Do I kill one of your units off the map? And it's interesting because there are three acts in the game. And the first act, areas, 4, 5, and 6 will score the most points. But in the second act, it's the middle. But in the last act of the game, the ones, twos, and threes are the most valuable because area 0 is Kyoto, the capital, and your Dojiraku means like marching towards the capital, and you're trying to get there. And it feels very much like a streamlined Sekigahara in a way.
Mm.
And as simple as it is as a trick taking game, there are a lot of interesting things out there because as soon as you win one trick, whoever wins that trick will take this card and they're going to score immediately. So wherever their daimyo is on the map, uh, that's what's going to score. So hopefully, if I'm playing yellow and my daimyo is there in area 4, I have more yellow dudes than there are blue dudes because if I'm not careful, well, then those blue dudes will score a lot more points than me. And
Ah,
so
nice.
sometimes you're trying to lose a trick on purpose and get someone else to win. And then there you have to think about too, like there's in the later acts, you realize that maybe you don't want to kill your opponents, uh, dudes on the map, because it's far more expensive for them to move them from 6 to 1 to 0 than it is for them just to summon them at like level 1 spot. And so you're kind of draining them out because all their units are alive and stuck on the map, and they're force them to march. Whereas you are a little bit more conservative and held back, and now you can drop them in wherever you want. And there's also a ninja. I guess they're always ninjas, right?
Oh,
They're
of course. You can't,
and
can't
in
do
like great strategic fashion, like the highest number is a 6, and the ninja is it's kind of like a 0, right? They'll always lose, but unless the 6 is played, then they'll assassinate that 6. So there's always a level of uncertainty. The You can find this like in a small box version. You should never buy that small box version because it's absolute trash. It's the scoreboard is it's just so small and it zigzags and there aren't
Oh,
numbers on
no.
everything. It's just it's just hideous. I hate it. But if you get the nice deluxe version, which occasionally is available on Amazon, it's just really, really nice. The score just goes all the way around the edge of the board to get the right style, so there's a lot more room there. And it also has a two-player variant where you kind of play dual-handed. And that seems kind of boring at first, but when I played it, it became really fascinating because, one hand is the one I'm trying to win, and then the other card is that it's because I'm playing with one hand, but I'm playing cards from it. But the other army, I'm trying to maybe throw you off or maybe bluff whatever it is. But no matter what, like I'm always gonna have to play them equally as well because the lowest score is going to be my ultimate score, right? So you want to lift them both up, and it's really fascinating at the 2 player, 3 and 4,
Oh,
and
great.
it's a really streamlined Sekigahara. Can't recommend it enough. And that's Joraku.
I don't know if I'm that familiar with that one, but that's why we do these lists to find these titles that we haven't heard of. So, all right, so my number 3 is a big box. Now, this game has gone by many names. It has
No.
gone by Samurai Swords and Ikusa, but I have the
Oh.
original Shogun. It's not showing very well on the screen here, but this
Oh
was,
no, that
look
that
at that
brings me
guy.
back. I know that guy. I know that guy very well.
Yeah, so I'm gonna lean back and it's not going in very well with the
Yeah,
background.
I would.
Anyway, that
Yeah, that's a great game.
I believe that is the first war game that I ever bought as like that as far as I can remember. I remember the first Avalon Hill game I bought was Bismarck, but that may be the first war game I ever bought. And at the time it was $40, I believe, which translates to
That's a
like I did
lot.
the math, it's like 150 now or something, which when you're, 10 years
Ooh.
old is a lot of money. But I have had so much fun with Shogun, Axis and Allies, obviously a companion game. I haven't played Fortress America, which was the third one in the series there,
Yeah.
the Game Master series. But Shogun is such a great game. It has all the dimensions of a war game. In some ways, it feels at least initially like Risk, but you
Hmm.
have the different troop types, you're building armies, You are trying to promote your daimyos to become more experienced, which makes them more effective, but also more vulnerable to assassination by what else? A ninja. Um,
Yeah.
you and you get these little coins called koku where you bid for certain things. You bid for turn order, or you buy new troops, or you build castles, fortresses, and so forth. And what is really neat, there's the mechanics of the game, which are kind of interesting enough. Not very historical because you just kind of randomly start your forces all over the place and by random card deal essentially. There's a card for
Yeah.
every territory and you just deal them out and that's where you start. But the real fun in the game is the alliances, and you really need to play it at 5 player, which is the full thing, because you get all these alliances, shifting, betrayals. You get all the kind of the overarching narrative that probably is historical in the sense of the political angle of the conflict. And it's just a really, really fun game. It's not short. There's a lot of die rolling. It's very
No,
much like
it's
a
a long
Ameritrash
game.
type game. But if you're cool with that, it has a lot to offer actually, and it has a lot of fun to be had. And we did a video where we kind of compared Axis and Allies versus Shogun, and the general consensus in the comments was that Shogun was the better game overall.
Yes.
So
Yes. I'm actually so thrilled that you showed Shogun, and not like samurai swords or
yeah,
Yakuza. I played Shogun as a kid,
yeah.
and I would so love to play it again. I have never finished the game. Never finished a game. But because we would have to, because it got towards bedtime and we would have to finish. And then, like, next day at school would be like, oh, I would have won. I totally would have won. I
Yeah.
totally won it because I was going to position to do this. And like, the concept of like leaving it out on the table untouched and then coming back to it like another day never entered
No.
our minds. Um, but it was such a fun, epic experience. And it was so different. I think once I played Risk. That was probably my first war game I ever played.
Yeah.
But when I played Shogun, I was like, this is something really different.
Yeah.
This is something really different. And
Yeah.
that's, yeah, great pick. Great,
Yeah.
great pick.
All right. Now you're number two.
My number two is it over there? I was going to pull it out. I have all these games.
Yeah, I
I'm
believe
not
you.
going to pull it
I
out.
trust you.
um, my number two is going to be Rumble Nation. And
Okay.
again, it's just I'm stuck in this Goku period.
That's
Um,
not a Jackie Chan movie.
Rumble in the Bronx. It could be
I
Rumble
know, I know.
Nation. Rumble Nation is kind of like El Grande in 30 minutes is how
Okay.
I do it. But it's in Sogoku, Japan. I'm stuck here in the Civil War of Japan. But you are there are random castles and random areas on your map going numbered from 2 to 12. So obviously, if you win the castle at 12, you'll win 12 points. If you win the castle at 2, it's worth 2 points, and so forth. On your turn, you're going to roll 3 dice, and you have one reroll, and that's it. After you roll, you're going to make a pair with one dice. So, like 2 and 3 is 5, and my other one is 6.
Okay.
So, the two numbers that you add up are going to determine which area that you're going to deploy to. The third die is going to determine if you put 1, 2, or 3 units. So obviously, if you rolled a 1 or 2, 3, 4, or 5, 6 will determine if you put 1, 2, or 3 units in that area. Uh, and it's a basic area control game. Now, instead of rolling dice on your turn, you can also draft one of the available tactic cards that are available. There's like a deck of 16, and you only play with 3 or 4, or like a number of players plus one. And they all do something different. Like you could move one out, you move a two, you can move in, you push other people out. There are all these fun things, but everyone has access to them. But if you decide to trigger it, then no one else can use it, and then that's your turn, right? And you can't roll your die and then say, "No, I does a bad roll. I'm going to do a tactics card instead." No, absolutely not. You have to make that choice. Um, and it's a really, really simple thing. But what's really amazing about it is that as soon as you deploy all your units out, you get like this little tiebreaker token. And the first person to go out gets like 3 or 4 swords and 2 swords and 1 sword and then no sword. And then the second half of the game takes place. So after that's all done, you're going to look at area two and determine who wins that, and then they'll get the token. And if it's like a 3 or 4 player game, then you'll get halvesies. Whoever got second place will get half the points, right? But then the person who won, so if blue won, well then blue can get reinforcement units, and they can send 2 units from area two to any adjacent area where they have units. So maybe 2 is next to 12 or 2 is next to 7. And I have there. So now all of a sudden blue is losing, but now with the reinforcements, blue is winning.
Oh, nice.
And it creates this cascading effect that's really fascinating to watch. And sometimes you're like, well, I really want 12 and I'm close. I'm in a solid second place, but I could reinforce if I win from these neighboring areas there. And that ending cascading aspect of the game completely changes how you play the whole game because you're thinking about the end game of how it's going to trigger. And it's so fascinating. You play this game with all these decisions, and then the last half of the game, it's on autopilot, and you're just kind of watching it unfold. And every now and then, there's always this one moment where like you didn't expect or you calculated it wrong, and you go from you snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, as I like to say.
Yes.
And it's a lot of fun to watch. And now it came out a long time ago, like in 2017. But Asmodee picked it up and they brought it to the States. So, and the one that we have is the deluxe version from Japan. In which case now everyone has a daimyo. So you'll have a bigger unit that's worth more influence, I guess, for an area, for the area control. And then each player will have a different daimyo power. So the daimyos can do different things. I do have a daimyo variant that I prefer to play with. So you're not dealt your card, but you also have to draft the daimyo throughout the course of the game. But I remember I had to sell half my collection when I moved from Taiwan back to the US.
Oh, a
Um,
sad day.
it was a sad day. And I sold my big box of El Grande thinking this should be easy to find in the States. But after I came back to the States, I thought, do I really need it? Because I'd rather play Rumble Nation instead. Because that's just it's like 30 minutes, 30 to
Yeah.
40 minutes. It's on and off the table really quickly, and it's really snappy. And I really love that end game effect to it. But that is my number two, Rumble Nation.
All right. That's a great pick. My number two is a different part of Asia, not Japan for
Oh,
once. Okay.
thank goodness, thank
And
goodness.
I figured, being Legendary Tactics, had to have a coin game in there. So we're going to go with Fire in the Lake
Oh,
with Mark Herman and Volko Ruhnke's design
the
of
best
the,
coin
the
game.
Vietnam War. And again, this is more of your 4 to 6 hour game, but I think,
More like 6 to 8, really.
yeah, maybe,
It's
yeah, depending on the
it's an
scenario.
epic game.
Yeah, but like most coin games, it models both the military war game type aspects that you would expect with a political, social angle, economic angle, and it really is a, a really interesting simulation of the Vietnam War that is a little bit harder to learn than the other coin games, but it's not crazy. And I always say, some people say, oh, coin games are hard to learn. They are in a way, but the rule book is always 12 page. If you turn to the 12th page, that's the last page of rules in most of the early coin games because the rules were contained within 12 pages and then you had the rest was like solo rules and whatever. So what is tricky about the coin games is not the rule set. It's not hard to learn, but it's hard to figure out, okay, I want to accomplish this goal. How do I do that? What levers do I pull? What buttons do I push to get there? And you almost have to go through this period of just trying stuff. And seeing what works and what doesn't, and oh, my force got wiped out. I guess I won't do that again. That kind of thing. And then you begin to figure out how it comes together. So it's not a game which kind of serves you obvious gameplay strategy on the first go around. It's something you need to invest in. But that said, I think it's one of the most playable versions of that particular conflict. There's certainly other more
Oh yeah.
famous ones that victory games being the craziest, which their Vietnam War game took 100 hours to play, beginning to end. So this, even if it's 8 hours, you're still, it's still doable in a day or a couple of evenings, and you get that again, that same political sort of metagame of breaking alliances. Oh, the VC have pulled ahead. We got to rein them in so you get unlikely alliances or whatever going on. And like A Distant Plane, which has the Afghan government and the coalition forces in what they call a marriage of inconvenience.
Oh
It's the
yes.
same thing with the ARVN, the South Vietnamese, and the U.S. Forces. It's a marriage of inconvenience where they have similar goals, but they don't quite overlap all the way, and so the each side's going to do stuff in their own interests that doesn't help the other. And at the end of the day, there can only be one winner as well. So there's a kind of a co-opetition aspect, and same with the NVA and the VC in that game as well. There's a bit of a push-pull there where it's generally, yeah, we want to accomplish this, but we've got slightly different goals here. So,
I love the
yeah,
coin games so much. They're so
yes,
good. I just hate GMT rule books with a passion. I just
I
that sounds so
understand.
mean for me to say that.
I
It's
understand, but I'll tell you what is because they are written almost like the old Avalon Hill with like it's rule
oh yeah, yeah.
3.6.2.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But I'll tell you, I'm playing another GMT game called Fields of Fire. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a
Oh yeah, I
solitaire.
have. I have.
Yeah. The rule book is 96 pages. But oh my gosh, if it isn't one of the best rule books I've ever dealt with because you can find exactly what you need. The index has works. They've got actually two ways of indexing it. So you can find what you need within 10 seconds and you go right to that paragraph and it's right there and you read that little blurb and oh, okay, that's how that works. And so when you read a bad rule book, it makes you appreciate GMT's approach a little bit more, I think, is
No,
when you're
it
going
does.
through a short rule book and you can't find where that was written. Oh my gosh, it drives me nuts.
The indexing is brilliant when it works the way it should. I think
Yes.
that I guess my problem with GMT rule books is that a lot of their games are uh, are made unapproachable by their rule books
Mhm.
because they're very dry and
Yes.
they take effort to to pound through. I usually recommend to people that should not read the rule book, but read the playbook
Yeah.
because the playbook will show a game being played and
Yep.
teach you it at the same time, and
Yep.
it's much more digestible that way.
Yes.
Um, and I really wish they kind of I don't know. They like Fantasy Flight Games went through this phase where they had like a giant index, kind of like a GMT rulebook, and they had one that was like a very quick get to the table and play.
Yeah.
And I think that if they had something similar to that, that more people can play their games and realize that like every coin game is actually pretty simple. You just flip a card and then you make one of three decisions,
Yes.
and one of those three decisions will be, oh, one of like four more, one of like three more decisions. So like, and that's it. And so
Yes.
it's actually quite simple, like those coin games.
And
Um,
they do know about that, and they are coming out with these titles like A Jest of Robin Hood, which is
oh
coin
yeah,
light, right? It gets you into the game pretty quickly. They've even got like again the fast start guide, and the gameplay is much more streamlined. So if you play a game like A Jest for Robin Hood and you want the next level, then it's available.
oh yeah, yeah. I'm so glad you brought up Fire in the Lake. I haven't played it in a while because it is an 8 hour game. All Bridges Burning is my go-to for that, as well as the what is it off the top of my head? The
Oh, the
British one,
British way?
British Way. Yeah.
Yeah.
because it's British Way is two-player. I just need to find one buddy
Yeah.
to play with
Yeah.
me, and then I play a two-player coin game, and you have it over, I guess, a campaign of like
Yeah.
little ones. But I guess the story is for like All Bridges Burning is like the with
You mean
Finland where
Fire in
like
the
the
Lake?
Nazis are supporting not
Oh,
Fire in the Lake, but
All
All
Bridges
Bridges
Burning. Yeah.
Burning is.
Yes.
I like All Bridges Burning because it feels like all three parties all feel like a playable person faction. I
Faction.
guess
Yeah.
the one thing with Coin is that sometimes it's really a 3.5 player game because there's always that fourth faction that doesn't feel as developed. Like the for the Liberty or Death, it's the whoever's going to play the French,
Yeah.
you know. And usually we play them as three-player games. In my old group, we played them as three-player games, and that point five is will just be a bot that we all kind of work together and figure out what that bot does.
Yeah. Now
With
that
the
said, about the bots, I just found this out just yesterday in a comment from one of our viewers. There's a guy who's actually done apps to run the solo game for Fire in the Lake, for
oh,
Red
what?
Dust Rebellion, and for Gandhi, which was also on my list of potential titles. Whoops, there. But it's not really a war game in the same way, so I left it
No,
off.
not a war game the same way. It's
But
very different. Yeah.
this guy has developed. You can now they go by weird names, and so Red Dust Rebellion. The app is called Sky Crane. For the Fire in the Lake, it's Gia Long, so Gialong, and it's Gandiva, Gandiva for the Gandhi bot, and it will run the deck. It'll run all the interactions for you. And I hope this guy keeps going. I just found out about it yesterday. These apps have been around for a few years, but
Oh, that's brilliant.
yeah, but it'll run the solo game for you. So if you want to play a coin game like Fire in the Lake relatively quickly, I haven't timed it yet because I just found this out, but it'd be neat to see how fast you could get a coin game done, especially solo. If you could do it in an hour and a half, man, that's pretty
Oh,
cool,
that would
right?
be amazing. Yeah, the I absolutely love the Coin series. I think it's a brilliant, brilliant series, and I can't recommend it enough. And I think when you hear people give the advice of find whatever conflict you find the most interesting, like personally, just like narrative wise, because that'll help you power through
Yeah,
the learning process.
yeah,
I have a weakness towards snow maps, and I really love the history of Finland from 1917 to 1918, where you had the Soviet Union supporting one political party, and then the the Nazi Germany supporting the other, and how it just became like this proxy war
yeah,
for them, and that was just really really fascinating. I love uh, stories about how the press are used in the game and like propaganda. I find really fascinating. So
yeah.
it's I know this is not talking about the topic that we're talking about today, but I just had to gush
That's
about
okay.
this love
That's
for the
all
game.
good. All right, and your number one.
Well, my number one isn't as good as King of Tokyo because my number one is Sekigahara,
Oh, all right.
and I just love this game so much. I think it is the best block war game that's ever been made. Um, I love I love the amount of bluffing that's involved in it. I love how smooth it plays with the card play. I really love how the cards are so much fun to play with. And that's the idea of the cards kind of dictate which blocks or which towers of blocks that you can move. And sometimes you're moving a tower as a bluff just to control one of the major like pinpoints that you really need to control in the game. And I just absolutely adore it. I think it's a fascinating, fascinating game.
Yeah.
And I am one of the weird people that I do like to play as Ishida, as because I think you do I think like when the first time you play, you do think Tokugawa is a little bit easier. And he is at the beginning of the game, he starts off pretty strong,
Yeah.
but he does have to cross a whole heap of land. He has to cross all of Japan to
Yeah.
get to where he's going. But Ishida really has to play that tower defense game of like, do I need to control the choke points to the west, make sure that no one else gets past that, take over I think the three or two castles that are there,
Yeah.
but to really make sure and defend yourself there. And and that those cards can be just absolutely brutal sometimes. But it's interesting to see how people always say that dice are a cruel mistress, right?
Yes.
Uh, but the card play can also be that way. But at the same time, you're dictating what stays and leaves your hand. So it's almost as if like it's up to you and it's your fault for not playing that way or not planning that way or not getting all your guns in that same stack or not getting all your cavalry in the same stack or maybe you made a bad choice and took a castle and it cost too many resources, which just happens so many times in that game. But yeah, Sekigahara is I think the best block game. I don't know if I'll ever play a block game that's better than that. Just I think bluffing is one of my favorite aspects to a game, like when it's done correctly, because it really forces you to get into your opponent's headspace. And there are those moments in Sekigahara where you can pull a rabbit out of your hat and you can totally catch your opponent bluffing,
Oh,
and
big time.
you and it can be really painful for them.
Yes. Oh
And
yeah. If they don't
and
have the
timing,
cards to play their
yeah,
blocks, oh boy,
and
yeah.
timing a loyalty card that hits. Like, I'm gonna do a loyalty check on you, and does it work? Do you have the cards to defend yourself?
Yeah.
If not, you're in a world of hurt. But at the same time, like I sacrificed a lot by having this dead card loyalty card in my hand because it's really doing nothing for me
Yeah.
up until I play it. So it's yeah, I really love Sekigahara, and I really want to play it some more.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Well, maybe we'll have to fire up a game. I know there's some online options that way. So I'm gonna my for my number one, interestingly, now I'm gonna uh say there's a bit of personal history with this as well. And when I open the board, you might think that this is for Go, but it's
And it's
not.
that's a go board.
It is, but it's not. This is for shogi, which is Japanese
Oh,
chess. And it's an abstract war game, but what if it's just plays out so differently than chess, because in chess you're kind of moving out and attacking, and it's all about that kind of that very offensive thing. Shogi is a really defensive game. You are turtling around your king, and you have different forces that differ from the standard Western chess. So you have the golds, which move anywhere forward, but only straight backwards. And you have the silver, which move diagonally backwards and whatever. And then you have the where in the position of the rooks, you have the spears, which can move up, but only straight up. They can't go backward. So you got to time things that way. And you have knights, which move in the same way, but they can only move forwards as well. And what the main differences are that if you cross a certain line on the other side of the board, you promote your piece, which means you flip them over and they get more range of movement. Also, if you capture a piece in chess, it just goes by the side of the board. But in
hmm
shogi, when you capture a piece, it actually comes to your side of the board to be deployed by airdrop anywhere on the board as your move. So you can bring back enemy pieces back to life on your side. And it really changes the dynamic, because if you have a spot that's open, you could end up having pieces dropping in on you, which is completely unexpected. And it just raises, it feels like it's chess, but on a just a very cool variant of it, maybe. I don't want to say it's deeper, but there's different aspects to consider. And as I said, it's a much more defensive game. It's a lot of it's building essentially a fortress that the other side cannot easily break into. But it is a really fascinating game. If you haven't had a chance to play, I lived in Japan. That's my expat experience. I was there for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so for me, I remember playing this with my students, and I had to learn the characters because I've yet to come across a shogi board with actually some sort of Western labeling. So a lot of it is the Chinese characters. which is fine because I can read them that way, but I understand maybe it might be hard for someone who's not up on their kanji to know how to read
Yeah.
that stuff. But it is a really fascinating game, and I play it. I still play it to this day, and it's so much fun. And it's just a really interesting twist. If you have played a lot of chess in your day and you want to try something different, I really recommend shogi as a kind of a. I'll say it's an abstract war game. I'm gonna make that fit the
Yeah.
category.
No, that's really cool. I was not expecting that. I think that's a great one to end on. The I have never played shogi. I played shangqi, which is the Chinese chess in a way.
Yes,
And
I've played that before as well.
I played with my students and I lost. Like they got like the double cannons and they
Yep,
nailed me and the game was done. And
yep.
I I started going down this rabbit hole because I was so prideful. I was like, my student destroyed me in like 3 minutes, and I got to play decently. Still got destroyed by my students who went to like a cram school for Xiangqi and just like would just you would learn it all the time. That was his thing. And so it's and it was fun to him to eventually have him teach me some things. But if you really like shogi, they I think a publisher in Japan released a version for kids of shogi where it's instead of like the characters, it's all these cute little animals, and these animals are fighting each other. And I believe a North American publisher may be bringing it over.
That would be, I think, a good move on a public. I bet you there's an audience for that. It's
Yeah.
obviously it's a classic game in Japan, but I don't think it has the. Most times you think of Go, if you think of a Japanese game, and obviously that's an interesting game in its own right. But I like Shogi. Go always feels so epic, and I really need to be in the right mindset to play a game of Go because the possibilities and combinations and all that stuff start to get really
Oh man,
overwhelming. And
it's brutal. It's yeah, Go is definitely the war, right?
yeah,
And Shogi's, from my understanding, it's just the battle.
yes, yeah, yeah, that's great. So, well, anyway, thanks so much for joining us to put together this list. And
Nathan,
so,
it's my pleasure. I had a
yes,
great time.
yeah, and so everyone, please check out Cardboard East. Jay does an amazing job in highlighting these titles that are being published in Asia and making sure that we're aware of them. We can hopefully get our hands on them and find the best of the bunch and get them to the table. So, thanks again, Jay. Great to hang out with you.
My pleasure. Anytime, Nathan.